So I feel like I'm one of the only people actually like catches the weigh-in shows. But man, some of these lists they do like generally are ridiculous. So Bilal Muhammad and Paul Felders uh, they both did most well-rounded fighters list, and they were not good in my opinion. You know, Belal Muhammad for his top five most well-rounded fighters in the UFC. He had Islam Makhachev, which I actually think is an underrated pick. I don't think that's like a horrible one. I wouldn't have him in the top five most well-rounded, but I do think he is very well-rounded. I think he's maybe just five or on the outskirts of that. Like I don't actually. That's not the one I have a problem with. John Jones, I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with Volkanovski. I would have those two on the list for sure. But where I start to like delve into like this is a little bit of a weird one is when he has Jamal Hill at number four for the most well-rounded fighter in the UFC. Like Jamal Hill is a boxer. That's all he does is box. He'll throw the occasional kick, but outside of having decent takedown defense against Glover Teixeira, he has not showed any well-rounded abilities. We haven't seen him go for subs. We haven't seen him wrestle. We haven't seen him shoot for takedowns. Like we've literally just seen him use the hands and maybe got a knee to the body against a Brazilian opponent. I can't Clinton Abreu. I think he kneed Clinton Abreu to the body. But outside of that, he's just really been a one-dimensional boxer. So yeah, Bilal showing his bias to his friends in this list for sure. Especially having Islam number one. Like, Islam is very well rounded, but I wouldn't put Islam Makhachev number one in the whole UFC for most well roundedness. Before the Volk fight, and the Charles fights, we didn't really see much of his striking. I do think he is a very good boxer. I think Islam Makhachev is a good boxer, but I don't think he's top five most rounded. He's still very grapple heavy, but his striking is developing. So I do understand Islam Makhachev. I'm not upset with Islam Makhachev being on there. I think he's a great fighter. But Kamaru Usman was number five. Like Kamaru Usman is the second greatest welterweight of all time. He's an amazing fighter, but outside of having a jab, he doesn't really have much else outside of, he wrestles, he clinches, but he doesn't have jiu-jitsu. He never goes for subs. We've seen him on his back against Leon Edwards. He had nothing off his back. He doesn't have a guard game or anything like that. Like his jiu-jitsu is not the greatest. And all he has in the boxing is a jab. It's a very good jab, don't get me wrong. He's powerful, he's got a good jab. He uses the takedown threat for that. But he's not very well rounded when you think about it. Like yes, he's got a good jab, but his striking game is very limited. We don't see him really throw kicks. He used to teep to the body a lot, but we don't really see him do that much anymore. It's literally just a jab, maybe occasional body jab as well. But it's all just a right hand jab. Like we don't even see him really. We never see him throw combos really. Like he'll maybe when he fought like Tyron Woodley back in the day. Yeah, he did. He actually, I'd say he was more well rounded when he used to be like before he went to Trevor Whitman. After Trevor Whitman, he became very one dimensional, just with the jab and the wrestling. I feel like his striking game was a lot more well rounded when he was just training at Killcliff. I know he still does train at Killcliff now, and he trains with Trevor Whitman, but like I feel like he was a lot more well rounded back in the day than he is now. But even then, I don't think he's top five. I like Kamaru Usman, but like I say, we don't really see him go for submissions. And even then, he doesn't even take people down really. Like when he doesn't really have like devastating ground and pound like an Alexander Volkanovski or a John Jones. Like he'll get takedowns, but it'll be just like a total control type thing. Like he doesn't really have great ground and pound, doesn't throw up submissions or anything. So I don't really think he's that well rounded. And then my next one was Paul Felder. Paul Felder had Volkanovski number one, good pick in my opinion. John Jones number two makes sense. But then number three, he had Dustin Poirier for most well-rounded. Like, Dustin Poirier cannot stuff a takedown anymore. His hips are fucking toast. His game isn't really that well-rounded. I know he subbed Dustin Poirier, which is he subbed Michael Chandler, sorry. But that was because, Michael Chandler's fight IQ was just, like, awful. But, we don't see Dustin Poirier really show a well-rounded game at this point. He's just really boxing heavy. Like, yeah, he did wrestle Conor McGregor, but I don't think that you can put him in the top five most well-rounded fighters though. Like I don't think you can do that. Honestly, there should be more bantamweights and flyweights on this list if we're going on well-roundedness. But I don't think Dustin Poirier is number three. Then he had Shavkat Rakhmonov. I do understand where he is coming from. You know, Shavkat is great. He's got good striking. He's got good submissions. I do think his wrestling is a bit limited and his takedowns are a bit limited at the moment. You know, uh, like he's got some solid trips, but we don't really see him shoot for singles or doubles or anything like that. We don't see him hip toss or anything like that. He just really has trips, and he only really took Neil Magny down when he threw kicks off of memory, and Neil Magny's takedown defense is pretty bad. So I don't think Shavkat's like top five most well rounded, but eventually if he keeps, fixing his game and everything, I could see Shavkat Rakhmonov top five most well rounded fighters, but I just don't see it at the moment. He's still very young. I know everyone's very hyped on Shavkat, but I don't think his wrestling is fully there yet. And then fifth, which is the one I'm more outraged over, is Paul Felder had Arma Tazoukian at number five for most well-rounded fighters. Arma Tazoukian's a great fighter, very good wrestler, but his striking's awful, man. Like, his striking's not that good. I know he slept Christos Gargios, but he's generally not a great striker. Yes, he's got some power, but he's wild. His defense isn't good. Uh, he throws just wild stuff that doesn't really land, and he gets himself caught, like how he got caught against Joaquim Silva. Like, yeah, I don't think Arma Tazoukian's striking is up to par. His submissions, has he got any submissions in the UFC? I can't even remember. I think he's got some ground and pound finishes, but off the top of my head, I'm gonna double check this though. But I don't think he's got many subs. I could be wrong here. Yeah, no subs in the UFC. He's not really well rounded with the jiu-jitsu or the submissions. All of his submissions were on the regional scene. So yeah, like I don't think Arma Tazoukian is that well rounded. If we're being honest, he's more very one dimensional with the takedowns. Like, he's a very good at getting takedowns. He's got some really solid ground and pound, but I don't think he's really that well rounded. If we're being honest, like Islam Makhachev can take people down. He can destroy them on the ground, and then he'll snatch somebody's neck or get a Kimura or an arm lock or something like that. Now that's well rounded. It's also crazy that Paul Felder has Arma Tazouki on this list and not Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev is so much more well-rounded than Arma Tazouki, and I know they had a close fight, but Islam Makhachev's striking is so much better than Arma Tazouki, and his submission game is so much better than Arman. Like, I know Arman's a young fighter and he is going to improve, but from what we've seen in Arman's current game, like, I don't think he is up to that level yet, where you can put him in as a top five most well-rounded fighter. But yeah, I'm glad they made these lists that I don't agree with because it gives me some content to make. Because yeah, man's been slacking a little bit with the content. Definitely, during the fights, I'll be getting out a lot of reaction videos because there's a lot of fights I'm excited to talk about. But yeah, man, I just can't agree with these lists. I forgot what DC's one was. Let me see if I can find DC's. I think I took a screenshot somewhere. Let's see. Where is? Yeah, I don't mind DC's. He also has Kamaru Usman on the list. I still, like I say, I don't think Kamaru Usman is that well rounded. Like, when we're talking well rounded, yes, he is well rounded, but top five well rounded is like a whole different thing. I know people would say, well, Volk doesn't really throw up subs or anything. He does go for like subs. He almost did get Yair Rodriguez with an arm triangle. But the main reason I also have him so well rounded is, he does ground and pound. He does have solid takedown defense. He's got really well rounded striking. Like, his striking is well rounded everywhere. If you want to factor in, like, he's got power, cardio. I know that's not skill, that's more just like natural ability, but you also got to factor that in. Also, just like, the man's just, he can take the fight wherever he wants. Like, he's not, if he takes someone down, you don't see Volkanovski just like lay on top of them. He actually does go for ground and pound, and it seems like he's really working on his submission game lately as well. So that's why, and also I count submission defense and everything as well when it goes into well-roundedness. I'd say Volkanovski's got some of the best submission defense in the UFC in my opinion. But yeah, that's for anyone who says that. But yeah, like I say, He had Zhang Weili on the list. I don't mind that. Especially, I'd say Zhang Weili is definitely probably the most well-rounded woman fighter at the moment. Solid striking, destructive fucking takedowns and ground and pound, really good jiu-jitsu and submissions. So I don't mind Zhang Weili on that list by any means. But fucking Belal, man. Belal Muhammad putting Jamal here. What a fucking disgrace. That is like generally a horrible one. Like Jamal Hill's good, man. He's a good boxer. He's powerful, but like even having light heavyweights on that list is like besides John Jones, like light heavyweights are a very one-dimensional division. Like if we're basing this on like a pound for pound status, like you can't even have any of the heavier weight division guys because like all the like you need to have some flyweights on that list. Like Megan O'Leary had Brendan Moreno. I don't think that's a bad one at all. Obviously, we don't really see Moreno shoot many takedowns, but he does have a solid jiu-jitsu game. He's got really good boxing. And then there's like heaps of other guys in the flyweight division. Like you could honestly just put the list with like so many flyweights on there, like Pantoja, solid striking, good takedowns, controlling. He's got really good ground control, good ground and pound. Like I say, great submissions, great jiu-jitsu, good elbows. Like he's got a very well-rounded game. Does Alexandra Pantoja, but yeah, like I say, really weird list that these guys have, but yeah, I don't know. I just they need to get me on the desk in my opinion. I feel like I would be great on the desk. Off the top of my head I can't say who I would have like a top five well rounded. Maybe I'll make a video on who I think the most well rounded fighters are. Let me know in the comments if you want to see me do a video like that. But obviously I'd have Alexander Volkanovski in there. Also factoring in fight IQ, I feel like fight IQ, even though it's not technically a skill, it shows something. I think Volkanovski is the best fight IQ in the sport, but again, I guess you can't factor that into well-roundedness, but maybe you can. But yeah, still, they need to get me on there. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below if you agree with Belal Muhammad and Paul Felder's list. And yeah, let me know if you think I should make a video breaking down who I think the most well-rounded fighters are in the UFC. But anyway, if you made it this far, make sure you give it a like. If you're not already, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Let's go.